Albanese. I'm the landscape gardener here at New England Botanic Garden. I am mainly responsible for the wildlife garden, which we're standing in today, and I also take care of the regular groundskeeping and landscaping in the summertime, and I help to oversee the meadows, woodlands, trails, and wetlands. So the wildlife garden is a space that tends to fly under the radar a bit, as it's not as such a manicured garden, but it serves our local wildlife and our local pollinators through the native plants we put in there and the conservation efforts that we do to make it a healthier ecosystem. And it is located just down the hill from the formal gardens and the farmhouse, and it sits between the shade garden and the wildlife pond. So when you come to visit the wildlife garden, what you'll find is this gravel stone path here that runs throughout the garden and along the vernal pool. And you'll also find a wide variety of native plants, including native trees, shrubs, and herbaceous plants that I've planted. Right over here, I can show you. So right here we have a swamp rose, or Rosa palustris, that I planted, which serves as good thicket habitat for wildlife because it tends to grow in thick brambles once it matures more. And you can see the species name on the succession tag here, and it's also tagged with flagging tape to indicate that a staff member planted it. So any plant that you see in here that has flagging tape on it, that can tell you that it was planted by probably me. I've also planted shrubs that serve as good food sources for wildlife, such as the chokeberry or the blue huckleberry, and sweet pepper bush is another one that I planted that serves as good thicket habitat. So yeah, you'll find a wide array of native plants in the wildlife garden. So the wildlife garden has not always been the space that it is today. It has been the wildlife garden as long as Tower Hill has been here. But previous to that, it was a part of the operations of Carter Farm, the farm that used to live on this hill here. And we often find evidence of the farm that lays in this garden, such as bottles and other pieces of history that lie within the soil that I've dug up throughout my time working in here. We have done a lot of improvements in the space as well to make it more of an established garden, and to make it more of a healthy environment for wildlife. So that has included intense removals of invasive plants such as multiflora rose and Asian bittersweet. So those are very intense removals involving cutting the plants at the base and dragging them out from the site. And we also did some path establishments. So this path that goes throughout the garden, it used to be a lot narrower and it was mostly just soil and it got a little muddy, so we added some stone throughout the path that made it a little bit more accessible and more prominent as a path, and it gives it more of a noticeable feel for visitors when they walk through here that it's an intentional space. So the efforts that we make here in the wildlife garden vastly benefit our local birds and our local animals and pollinators as well. They will use this space to feed on plants and also live among them. And along with that, we have done a bit of installations of wildlife habitats themselves. So you can see this owl box is for screech owls, and kestrels can live in it. It's an easy thing that you can do for wildlife conservation in your own home. And you can also put out bluebird boxes if you have a meadowy space. But providing wildlife habitat is a really huge conservation effort that is really accessible, and it can benefit your local wildlife a lot. And it definitely benefits the local ecosystems of a garden as well. And along with that, planting native plants is a huge beneficial action you can do to improve your local ecosystems, as well as removing invasive plants as they come up if you're able to identify them, and pulling them out at the root or cutting them out. So my favorite project that I have done here at the garden is definitely the bird box project. Right here you can see a couple bluebird boxes that I've installed. We have 25 of them on site, and they help to increase our local bird population, which is natural pest control, and they help to pollinate, and they just help keep our ecosystems benefiting. Thank you so much for supporting the garden. Your donation does a lot to help our local wildlife and our conservation efforts here at NEVG.